Hi everybody, welcome back. I just thought I would do a quick introduction and say hello because it's really nice out today, and I've been very busy offline. I've been doing a detox and I've gotten some good results, and I've been doing a lot of research and work over here, so I'm excited to get back to making some more videos for you. So this will relate to some of the projects that I'm working on for this channel, but today I want to talk about conspiracies and the psyops that surround them. And of course, most of you who bother to subscribe to my channel are already well versed in conspiracy theories, and you know that things like the narrative around the JFK assassination and 9/11 are BS, and there's all kinds of conspiracies like that. And they are real conspiracies. And we may never get down to the actual truth behind a lot of these conspiracies because the cover-up is so extensive and there's just so much disinformation and psyops and all kinds of things around this stuff. And most people don't have hours and hours to research and dig and find that truth. And that's why, you know, these conspiracies oftentimes, like especially the JFK assassination, you know, the official narrative is still going, even though most people know it's BS, right? And I've noticed that, you know, there's real conspiracies, and then those conspiracies have psyops that are surrounding them. And then there's also conspiracies that are fake, and in and of themselves, those conspiracies are psyops. And usually, it's not just a psyop, it's a psyop within a psyop. There's multiple levels. And from what I've seen over the years, especially the past few years, a lot of times the real psyop within the psyop is data mining and data collection, metadata, and I'm sure that there are all kinds of databases and lists and profiles, okay? That's the real psyop behind some of these fake conspiracies, is to data mine the reaction and tailor future psychological operations based upon that data mining. And that, I think, has a lot to do with why they're so effective with some of this. When it comes to, you know, some of the recent psyops, we're all going to get duped at some point because there's so much effort going into this, and they've pretty much got it down to a science. A lot of the ways that they psyop people, and we know, you know, from the Snowden papers, just the tip of the iceberg of how much is going into these online psyops. We know that there's controlled opposition out there who infect the narrative and make it very difficult to weed through all of the disinfo. What's also become clear, especially since the U.S. election, is there's a mega faction war going on. And I don't know all the truth and details behind those faction wars. I don't like Donald or Hillary. I think that it's amazing the way that a lot of the psyops seem to have the goal of creating this binary thinking. And polarized binary thinking really dumbs it down. And what I've noticed since I was very young and I started to question reality and check out different conspiracies and different things just out of curiosity, is even my friends and family sometimes made fun of me for it. And the term conspiracy and the label conspiracy theorist has long been used as a term to mock people who are looking into these things. A good example, and that I'm actually surprised because a lot of the mainstream media is still using conspiracy as a mocking tactic. And I remember recently, like Roseanne Barr made a tweet, and she mentioned the QAnon conspiracy, right? And I'll talk a bit about QAnon. But Roseanne mentions QAnon and a couple other things. And she gets a huge backlash on Twitter. And I saw a BuzzFeed article. So they made this article about Roseanne's tweet. And it was like, oh, Roseanne tweets a conspiracy. And what's interesting is one of the classic examples of the Twitter response. A lot of mocking happens on Twitter, right? And this one Twitter post about Roseanne's QAnon and about some of Roseanne's more conspiratorial posts. This one Twitter person mocks Roseanne, and he said something like Pizzagate, chemtrails, QAnon, and then the fourth thing with a question mark was flat Earth. And that was just one of those classic examples, okay, of how you can see the psyop within the psyop, because obviously flat Earth is not a real conspiracy. It's very easily debunked, and the flat Earth movement has to lie a lot about basic physics and observable reality. Well, that's just a tactic in of itself. Roseanne never said anything about flat Earth. And so it's interesting because on the other side of it, you have this flat Earth movement, and a lot of them are just trolling. Some of them are getting paid, and then some people are just duped. They're just really, they've fallen for it. They believe the Earth is flat, which is totally their prerogative. But a lot of times the flat Earth movement people will in turn mock the globe trotters or globe trotters. There's a whole bunch of globe mocking. So you have all this mocking coming from the flat Earth movement, and then of course it's really easy to mock the flat Earth movement, and then the use of flat Earth as a tactic to just make all these conspiracies. If you're a conspiracy theorist, oh, what are you, a flat earther? It's that kind of stuff. That's the real psyop within the psyop right there, right? All this mocking. And meanwhile, you've got these people who are supposedly so educated, they're getting paid money, and they can't even investigate stuff like, you know, Pizzagate and chemtrails and QAnon without this emotional edge. And of course, a lot of people in the conspiracy theory world are much more emotional than intellectual. And it's good. Your emotions can be such a guide, right? But it's so fruitless to let the emotions maintain control when you're dealing with stuff like this, because this is really about facts and the meat of the data. And it, coming at and investigating this stuff with as much neutrality as possible actually is the fastest way to get to the truth, because you'll be able to see both sides. Binary thinking dumbs people down. And that is what a lot of these psyops within psyops are really about. And I actually didn't even bother paying much attention to QAnon at first, because I think it's pretty obvious there is a psyop element going on to that, even though it's kind of admitted. When I finally did start to pay attention to and follow and read the QAnon posts, and then I started to listen to what some of the psyops around it were saying, it became very clear this is really stirring the pot, and that in and of itself is what makes it so newsworthy. When I first started to look into it, it was because there was a channel that actually that tried to pull off a psyop around the QAnon stuff, okay? I'm not going to go into this too deeply, but let me just say I sat back and watched this channel lose 10,000 subscribers in about a week. And they lost all those subscribers because they were really sloppy about their psyop. And that actually really woke me up. I was just like, all of this effort is going into this. If you start to see a lot of mocking and a lot of effort and just tons and tons of noise about something, you know there's a psyop going on, right? But at one point, I clicked on a video that was about the QAnon posts. And in the comments below the video, I saw a commenter actually say, QAnon is Cambridge Analytica. And like, I had never heard of Cambridge Analytica, so I went over and did a search on Cambridge Analytica, found out who that was, and then sure enough, 5 minutes later, that post was deleted. Right? And then about a week later, maybe 10 days later, the whole Cambridge Analytica and Facebook story hit the news. And I'm like, wow, what are the odds that a week before that hits the news, when I had never even heard of Cambridge Analytica, it gets brought up in a QAnon video comments, right? And I don't know if, I don't think that QAnon is Cambridge Analytica. I'm saying that it's little things like that those of us who've been paying attention for a long time online, we see these little things. It's just these little details that go, And I really don't know all the truth about all this stuff. I don't see how I could ever get to the bottom of what is really going on. I simply observe, and for me, it's more about just maintaining an elastic mind, because what I think is happening is they're really trying to create the opposite. They're really trying to create rigid minds, and it seems to be working. It seems to be working really well. And I think the real psyop is about the data mining and the data collection, and understanding the target audience, understanding how to play people's emotions. And I think a lot of people independently are becoming more savvy. They're becoming more discerning. It was encouraging for me just to see that one channel lose 10,000 subscribers, because what they were doing, it was weak. It was the way they were going about doing it. And it's stuff like that that makes me wonder, as many people as I see who seem to be caught up in following and duping and being duped, it's like there still does seem to be a lot of people who are onto the way that this stuff works. And they're able to spot the controlled opposition and the fakery, And so we know a lot of the narratives around these conspiracies are infected. And we just have to, that's why you can't necessarily go at this with expecting to know what's going on. It takes a huge amount of patience. And in all my years of being into this stuff, conspiracy, fringe stuff, whatever, I think it's strange, but I'm more grounded than ever about it. I think I used to be, maybe back in my 20s, I was ungrounded, and I think I would have fallen for a lot of things a lot faster. I would have been like convinced of things more easily. But as I've gotten older and more seasoned, and I've just done a lot of neutral observation, I'm not in a hurry. I guess a lot of people seem to go into that cognitive dissonance, and it's like they're in a hurry to get to some conclusion so that they can feel at ease inside. And I find that I just deal with that differently now than I used to. I don't even know if I can really explain my process, but I guess it's like it takes a certain amount of constant psychic detox. Because, a lot of this is about being able to quiet all that peripheral noise. And so, based on all that, I decide what I'm going to pay attention to and what's important to me. I try not to tell other people what to believe, And like with the flat earth, I made my video about it and stated my case. I couldn't care less if a person wants to hold on to that. I'm probably not going to follow them, I'm probably not going to spend a lot of time on it. There's too much zealotry and too much trying to demonize people who don't see the things the same way. I get that. And so I think that's also part of the psyop within the psyop, and the so-called divide and conquer that goes on, right? Because, I've just started to accept that I can't ever compete with all the money that's put into all these psyops and these operations, especially online. It's very easy. It's very easy. And they dominate YouTube, and they dominate Twitter, and they will always dominate the narrative. And if they couldn't do it with the mainstream media, they'll put their people in the alternative media, which they have done effectively. Okay? Because there's a lot of people I've suspected for a long time, and they're starting to flail. They're starting to out themselves anyway. It's like after 25 years, I can tell you a lot of people that I have observed that it's so obvious they're getting paid, so obviously they're getting paid to disinform and manipulate, right? And I've noticed a lot of those people, it seems like they're breaking down and they're becoming more obvious. So this whole information age and all this data mining and surveillance, well, guess what? It actually ends up going both ways to a huge extent. There's just so much unintended consequences are coming. Oh, yes, there is. Anyway, I've gone on way longer than I intended, so I'm going to go, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.